everyone, and welcome to the Herping Hour podcast. This is episode 5, Leo Lowdown. This is part 1. Obviously, more parts coming. But we have a very awesome guest for part 1. We have the wonderful Chloe's Geckos UK.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for joining us this week on Leo Lowdown part 1.
Thank you for having me.
We're just going to be chatting a bit around you as a person and what got you interested in reptiles and what you've been working with, any future goals. And that doesn't have to mean with purrings, it can mean with anything, like any upgrade you might have in mind or that kind of thing. It's just going to be getting to know you really as a breeder and seeing what your interests are within the hobby. We've got quite a long list of questions actually, so I'll fire off with question 1. Question 1 is, how long have you been interested in reptiles for?
I grew up with reptiles from day one. My family have always kept them, so they was always in my life. And I guess you just fall in love with them, don't you? And then I knew when I was like a young teenager, that's when I just knew that I would get into them myself and, have my own stuff. And it was when I left school, I was probably about 16, and that's when I started to get my own Leopard Geckos in. So probably, about 10, 11 years now where I started with my own stuff. So yeah.
And was Leo's the first reptile that captured your heart, or was it a large sort of variety, or was it just Leo's?
It was mainly Leo's, 100%. I mean, there was quite a variety that I sort of grew up around, but I mean, there was a lot of snakes, but I'm not a huge fan of snakes.
Really?
I don't mind ball pythons, but when they're out of the ball, I'm not a fan. I just don't, just long and slivery. I'm just not a fan. But just Leopard geckos mainly for me. It's just always been them really, out of it over anything else.
What in particular do you like about Leopard geckos?
Oh, their smiles.
I've noticed, you do post a lot of smiley ones. They're quite
cute. It's just the first thing you see, isn't it? So they just always look happy, and it's just, I don't know if it sounds sad, but it's just nice to be around.
No, it is. You've got to have something that your heart's in. For you, it's obviously the Leopard Gecko side of things. I'm not big on snakes myself, to be honest.
It's a striking snake that I don't like. When they try and bite you, it just, oh no, I'm gone.
I'd be the same, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't mind if they're just in a nice little ball, but when they're
hold in one hand
looking at me, no, not happening.
I mean, I know quite a significant amount of information about snake. They're not first on my list of reptiles to go to be honest.
No, me neither. I mean, I know some of the different morphs and stuff, the ball pythons, but I mean, I wouldn't do a pub quiz on it. I don't think I paid much attention to them as I did, sort of the Leos. So I learned like the morphs at a very young age, like just like the visual morphs of the Leos, but I don't think I looked at the snakes long enough to learn much. So I sort of left the room. So
learning Leo morphs is just, I'm sorry, pure talent, because I cannot get my head around it at all. I've always wanted to learn it because it really fascinates me, but no, I'm sorry, you two, pure talent with learning the Leo stuff.
I'm gonna be.
It takes a while.
It does, and I know they do a lot of morph calculators online, but I tend not to actually use those. So I was going to do a separate podcast actually, learning the basics of genetics and the alleles and that kind of thing. So that might be quite cool.
We definitely need one of those.
Yeah, just to get people learning more about, outside of a calculator kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I know you said you've grown up with reptiles, but how long have you been working with Leos?
It was 11 years. I mean, I didn't breed much, obviously, when I started, but I've learned so much since then. The first sort of project that I did, it was about 11 years ago, the first time. I mean, I don't really count it as like my real start, because you know, you learn so much. And I mean, I probably wouldn't even say that it really hit for me until I got my green tangerines. I mean, for me, they were just, you know, this is what I'm going to work with. And I think it sort of took off sort of from there. I mean, I didn't even have my own reptile page until I got them.
That's funny that, because I didn't have a reptile page for 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, for 5 years, and then the last 3 years I've had a reptile page. So yeah, I can relate to that. Guessing your favourite morph then is a G&T.
How did you know? Yeah, I mean, I love bright colours, and with geckos, it just stands out to me. I love a bright gecko, and I mean, no gecko is brighter than a bright orange one, right? So and lime green is my favourite colour. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna crack onto these. And I think it's the rainbow stripe was the first that I ever saw. And, you know, sort of like the clowns, the G project, I just saw the photos of them and I was like, whoa, like I want to work with this colour. And I did my research and found a couple of breeders and reserved some, and went to the ham show in Germany and went and collected them. So yeah, really exciting.
Sometimes people don't want to discuss the projects. What would you say that you envisage as a sort of outcome for your projects with G&Ts? Is there something specific that you're looking to make, or for instance the polygenics, or is it, you know, the recessive or the visuals that you're interested in bringing out in that line? Or
I mean, if I'm honest, a bit of everything. I'm so fascinated by what it can do, because I just think it's so powerful. Like even the crosses, like I cross to a lot of Tremp albinos at the moment because I'm trying to prove out they're het or not. So even just the crosses, like because you never know what's going to come out when it's obviously two complete different stuff, and they all look different to each other. Like all the babies look different, and I'm trying them with sort of seeing what happens with white and yellow. I mean, I know white and yellow sort of, you know, washes out the brightness, but I mean, I'm interested to know what will happen like with the green, stuff like that.
I mean,
yeah,
I know it does wash. Well, yeah, it does wash it out in a sense, but also it can intensify the colour as well. So you could end up with really super bright green geckos from using white and yellow. So that'd be quite cool.
So cool.
Yeah, I mean, they say it's like like another enhancer, like what the Enigma used to do. But yeah, I mean, maybe I think I had a snow in mind, but there's no snow in them. But yeah, it's just, I mean, some give sort of that more like faded look, but I mean, I haven't got any G&T ones yet, so yeah, I have no idea what they're going to come out like. I'm excited to find out anyway, but I hope it works, because I always envision what I want to make. So I probably will keep trying until I get it, but I'll just see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Like a goal in mind though, and not just, you know, pairing whatever together for whatever.
Yeah, I always sort of know what I want to get at, and when I'm looking for something to pair with them, I always have a specific sort of gecko in mind. For example, I'm testing the males, as I said, for if they're het tremper or not, and if I've had enough hatch and I'm 100% sure that there's definitely no albino, I'm adding bell, and I'm going to try and see what the bell will do. And but I just know the type of bell that I want. I don't just want any bell. I want like a stripy one or something a bit orange. I just, you know, like I won't just get anything just for the project. I know exactly what I want to put into it, you know. Yeah.
Do you plan to work with any other reptiles, or is it just, I know it'll be predominantly Leos, but is there anything else that you've got in mind that you'll be working on, you know, in the future as maybe a little side project?
I mean, obviously we've got the African fat tails as well, which is a really small project at the moment. So I'll probably be looking to expand that, I think, get some more morphs in and more with those. As for new reptiles, I have nothing planned at the moment. I mean, me, like many reptile lovers, I mean, I'd love to have a bit of everything. I have this dream of, you know, big big room, all these huge vivs everywhere, few iguanas. I love crocodile skinks. I mean, I don't know enough about them to have any, but
They are so awesome.
Yeah,
I will definitely have some in the future, but I need to research first and know what I'm doing. But yeah, I think they're incredible.
They are amazing.
Mm.
What morphs are you working on with your fat tails?
We do like normal morph, whiteout, Oreo, amel tangerine.
Wasn't that the one I said about on the live the other day?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now I know where to go.
And they're just like combos of those, like whiteout Oreo, for example. So, and we've just got the patternless patty morph in, but we haven't bred them yet. They were too small, but next year we'll be working with those. But yeah, we don't have many. It's only a couple of pairing of each. So
I've got you on my list for when I have space for a fat tail.
You can have one for sure.
Yay!
Do you have a least favourite morph with your Leos kind of thing?
Least favourite? I mean, I personally only really work with stuff that I love. So there's none that I'm not so keen on, because if there was something and I wasn't keen on sort of the colours, it's not something that I would probably carry on with, because I like to have things that I look forward to. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I do. I mean, blizzards are one of my favourite, but they are a bit feisty. So I mean, one of them has bit me a couple of times, and I've got a nice jaw mark scarred on my hand,
No.
which he gave me. But I mean, if that means he's my least favourite, but no, I wouldn't say that I had a least favourite. I only really work with what I love. Yeah, bad blizzard.
That's how you tell the difference between a good breeder and a bad breeder. Someone that is breeding for themselves, not for other people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I just wouldn't have anything that I'm not sort of excited about getting into. I mean, that's just me. It's just my personal take on it, but just the room for what I love, I think.
Anything that I work with, I've always got a vision in mind that I want out of it as an end result. It's not, it doesn't matter that you're working on it or somebody else is working on it. It's what I would like to do. And that's what I think is important for everybody that's working on any project. I think it's good to have a goal in mind, but it's also good to be doing it for you as a person, for what you want and not what the market wants.
I'm the same, 100%.
Across this breeding year then, what sort of project outcomes are you happiest with and maybe least happiest with? Is there something that you wanted to hit but you didn't this season, or is there something that you didn't think you might hit but you have hit, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when we have like the post hets and you really want that one het to come out, and unfortunately, yeah, they prove not to be. So one of those is probably like the more disappointing side of it. I mean, but for the good stuff, I think for me, the green tangerine Tremper albino, I mean, I popped a few and there was two in particular that I just thought I was just so happy with. And I mean, it was my first year trying, and I luckily got a few the first year. And for me, yeah, I think they're probably my biggest achievement so far, just because, I mean, I love albinos and I love the green stuff as well. So for a combo of that in one was, yeah, really, really good outcome for me. And then hopefully I can do it to the bells as well and see what happens, but fingers crossed.
I've got my fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, I don't know how it'll go, because obviously bells I just find they're quite a bit more vibrant than trempers. I mean, it depends what's in them, obviously. I mean, some tremper tangs are incredible, but I just find bells, that when bells are tangerine, they're just a bit more, like fire. So I don't know how the green will come out.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll see what happens.
I think even the brown on bells can be quite intense as well.
Yeah, especially on the towel, like you can see it. Yeah,
cool. I'll definitely be following that. That'd be awesome to see if you manage to hit the goal that you're after.
Yeah, it would take me obviously a few years to get the result that I want. I mean, first of all, I've obviously got to get the hets and then carry on from there. So yeah, it'll take me a good few years, but I'll keep going until I get the result I want, hopefully.
Will be worth the wait if everything goes well.
Yeah, I'm not in a rush, so see what happens.
Awesome. So what are your future goals within the hobby? Is there anything that you've got in mind that you'd like to achieve?
Other than a 20-foot reptile room covered in huge vivariums. It's a tough one. I mean, again, it probably just relates to sort of Leo projects for me, because I haven't really thought about much else other than that sort of stuff. I mean, another one that I'm trying to do is, I don't know if you've seen my super snows with the stripes. I'm trying to get them into, so I'm trying to get sort of eclipse ones now and just see if they'll come out on, you know, like the Galaxy total eclipse, whatever people like to call them. So that's another thing that I'm working on as well.
They're called a galaxy.
I know.
Is there anything Leos don't have?
Name wise?
Yeah.
No, I don't think there is.
Any called unicorn?
Universe, close.
Oh my god, that's close enough. I'll take it. That's close enough.
I know someone sent a question in asking what new morph would you love to create, but I think pretty much answered that in terms of you'd love to move the G&T into the bell morph.
Yeah, again, it's just everything sort of revolves around GT, so yeah, not very interesting. But I mean, again, obviously the white and yellow, the bells. I'm also crossing them with bandits at the moment. I mean, I'm not expecting much, but I mean, I'll see what happens. I've got a few babies. A couple of them look like they're going to be orange, but I don't know if any green will come out, but I'm excited to see how they turn out anyway and see how that goes.
I do like the bandit head, actually.
Yeah, I really like bandits with the bold stripe and the bands across the nose. Yeah, I really love them.
I do quite like I don't have any, but I do quite like the look of the lavender ball stripe bells. They're quite unique.
Oh yeah. Yeah, anything lavender, when it stays, like as they grow, if it stays, then yeah, really nice.
Here's a question, actually. This is just from me.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on blues? Because I've noticed that G&T can bring out a lot of blue in a gecko.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's quite cool. I don't know if you've got any experience with that.
Yeah, so basically the GTs, obviously they hatch yellow and black, as you know.
Yeah.
And as they grow, so I find that the black turns blue and then it turns green.
Yeah.
And I know there's sort of clown morphs out there and that some of them actually hold the blue. I mean, I don't know if they fade as they grow, because I don't know if I've seen like adult pics sort of just like, you know, juvenile, but they really hold the blue better. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know how to make that blue stick. I mean, even if it was something I want to work on, I don't really know how I do it, because I mean, if the color's going to change, it's going to change. So yeah, but it does come through before the green, I find. I wish it stayed, but it never does.
I had
in mine anyway.
I had one actually, you know, from the copper cross G&T that I did last year.
Yeah.
And she held quite a few bits and bobs of blue all over her, so that was quite
cool. Like still as an adult?
Like as an adult, yeah. So
really interesting.
I noticed it as she was reaching sort of sub-adult, and I thought, oh, I'll just keep her, because I was going to keep her based on, you probably know, I like the rusty sort of copper look, you know, that some of them you can get with the, you know, with the darker looking G&Ts.
Mm-hmm.
She was quite perfect actually, along with two of her other sisters. So I held her back, and funnily enough, even now she's got patches of blue. So I thought that might be quite interesting, you know, to try and work with that. Not sure how successful it'll be, but it's one of them things, you don't really know what you can achieve with it until you work with it. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, if I had one, I would definitely hold it back and see, because none of mine have held blue. So yeah, definitely see what happens with that one.
Yeah. It would be quite interesting. I know that you've probably seen that we're sort of looking into the mental health side of things, with keeping reptiles and animals. So what kind of impact on your mental health does reptile keeping have? I'm guessing it's a good impact in terms of, you absolutely love keeping your Leos, but we're just looking at how it can affect people differently, in the keeping aspect.
I mean, yeah, for me, 100% positive impact. It's one of those things where if my mind's not how I want it, I'll go clean some geckos. And some people hate doing that, but for me it sort of keeps me busy, keeps me thinking of other things. And yeah, I mean, I was in a position where I've got a new reptile building now, and before I had that, I actually had to drive to where my animals were. And especially when you're having sort of those bad days, it's so hard because you don't want to drive, and I've got animals to look after, and I found it so hard. And then ever since I've had my new building, it's obviously now at home with me, and my animals are here now, most of them anyway, and it's just changed so much. I mean, I'm so grateful for a start that I can just get up and just go straight in and see everything. And it's a point where, I mean, I don't know how sad it might sound, but I get to a point where I am looking forward to waking up and just even just going to check the incubator. I mean, because I can just go and do that now. I don't need to drive anywhere. Like, it's it impacts me massively, I would say, because like everyone, I do struggle now and again, and I just think it reduces my thoughts and stuff like that 100%. It keeps me busy, and I mean, I'm always thinking about sort of genetics and what am I going to pair with those, and I'm just always thinking about things. And it definitely distracts my mind, and just sort of spending time with the animals. And I just enjoy cleaning them, as sad as it sounds. I do, and just seeing how they're all growing, and even just feeding them, like watching them all come out. And yeah, it's definitely my happy place, just being in my little reptile shed now. When I'm not in my room, that's where I am. So yeah,
I love a reptile shed.
Yeah, it took me years to be able to get one, but it was so worth it in the end. And
worth all the hard work,
especially if it's positively impacted your mental health as well. That's a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just look forward to getting up and just going in there. And whereas before, like, you don't want to get out of bed, and yeah, it's hard, but it's definitely helped me in a way. 100%. Yeah.
Do you find it's easier to sort of keep on track of schedules, like cleaning, feeding schedules, having a reptile shed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very organized person, so if I didn't do something as planned, I would go a bit, oh no, I need to fit this in. Like, I'm quite OCD about it, and I do have a schedule of when I have my feeding days, I have my cleaning days. So yeah, everything's on schedule for me. Yeah,
that's good though. It's good to be organized.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's like that, but I'm just an organized person. So for me, it's just, that's the way I am.
It's the way it's got to be.
It has to be like that, otherwise you feel like you've missed something out.
Yeah, like sometimes it will sort of drag on a day if I've ended up like sort of ended up a last minute plan with my friends or something, and I'm like, oh, I'll feed them tomorrow, and all night I'm like, oh no, I should have fed them. I do it at 11 o'clock when I get home. It's like, oh,
I'm like that.
I'll do it at 7 a.m. But yeah, I'm very organized. If I don't do things on schedule, I go a bit woo. So yeah, try to stick to that.
On to these questions about advice then. So what would be one piece of advice you'd give or you'd offer to a keeper?
So advice that I would offer to a new keeper would The first thing that I think of is probably to find the right person and get advice from one person, because you see obviously on these groups you're gonna, people post and, oh, how do I set up this cage, and you'll get 50 different answers, and you're just left getting, you've got nowhere. You've got 50 different answers. It's not going to help anyone.
No.
I just think, obviously you've got to pick sort of the right person to ask, someone, even if it doesn't have to be a breeder, even if it's another pet keeper, they're posting photos, they've got an incredible viv set up, and you just message them, give me a list, what have you got in there? And if they do it right, just stick to one person. That's the first thing that I thought of. And I think that's the advice I'd give.
It's important to realise that there's more than one way to successfully keep a reptile. And I think there's a lot of conflict in that, where there's a lot of people who's on the further advanced husbandry side, and then there's a lot of people who are on the side of, basic is okay kind of thing, and then they sort of clash. So I think that's a good piece of advice, actually, to just, find one person that can give you some advice and stick with that.
Because you can always find your own way from that bit of advice that person gives you. You can always be like, oh, okay, this person's told me to do this, I've been keeping for a couple months now, that part of their advice isn't working for me, this works better for me, and mix and match to find exactly what suits you.
Obviously at first, if people sort of don't have a huge idea, they do ask groups and stuff, and as Stacey said, everyone sets things up differently, so what works for someone won't work for someone else, and what they think's right, everyone else's opinion is wrong, and people are like that. And it is hard. You see these people, they just want to know what light to get, and they're giving 10 different answers, and they don't know which to believe, and
it's normally really aggressive advice as well. People are normally very aggressive and not very open to accepting that someone else has advised something else. Like, especially if it's not something that's dangerous, if it's just a different lighting option, vice versa, people can get quite heated over it.
There are people that think that their way is the only way, and there is quite a lot of that in the hobby and within reptile keepers, and probably the same with keepers of any animal, I'm sure. But it's just the way it is, and unfortunately, but everyone's different, so it's going to happen, isn't it?
Hopefully we don't scare everyone off.
I think that reptile keeping's always been quite controversial, so there'll always be people that will disagree with you, and then it's just one of those things. I suppose it's the same with most things, really, but with the likes of reptile keeping, it's always been like that. So what one piece of advice would you give to people starting out breeding?
Just to not be afraid to ask questions, like with fellow breeders and stuff. When you start off, we all know how difficult it is. You don't know anyone, and you see people sort of starting to chat to people and getting involved, and I do think that it helps. It is quite nice, and just sort of chatting to people, and if you do need help with sort of, I don't know, whether it's about something genetic or, there is a lot of pressure in the hobby to have things correct, especially these days. And I think people are scared to mess up, and I think people are scared to ask because they might think that people are going to jump on them. But I think, again, it's finding the right people to chat with, and just don't be afraid to ask questions. Everyone started not knowing everything. No one knows everything now.
What you're saying is true. There is no experts. There is
no, definitely
no
not.
know-it-alls, and it's sad that there are people that are scared to ask for help when they need it, because at the end of the day, it's for the benefit of the animal, not really about how the person. Obviously, you don't want to be rude to them, but you shouldn't be scared to ask for help when it comes to something that's another living thing. You shouldn't be making people scared to ask for help.
No, 100%. Again, you see it in these sort of Facebook groups, and people will get jumped on if they're doing something that other people think isn't the correct way. And you know, some people don't know what's right or wrong yet, and you know, they just need to be told nicely, I think, respectfully, because we are all humans at the end of the day. And you know, if someone's shouting at me, I don't really want to listen, but if someone's going to say it respectfully, and you know, I'll listen to what you have to say, you know. And I think if everyone just respect other people and don't be afraid to ask if you're unsure of something.
We'd have such a better community if more people were like you.
Oh,
we would, because you know what I think usually anyway, I usually post it that people should always be able to express how they're feeling in terms they should always be able to just ask a question without being ridiculed for it. And I think if more people was willing to accept that there's going to be more breeders than just one breeder around, then it would be better for everybody in that respect, where it doesn't mean that somebody doesn't know as much as you kind of thing. It just means that you're using your knowledge to help somebody else gain knowledge. And I think that's a massive part of what needs to grow in the community. I think it needs to be more open and more friendly and more willing.
We're all here for the same thing at the end of the
day. And you know, everyone knows different things, and it's just, you know, everyone can learn off each other if people, you know, took the time. And a lot of people do. I mean, I learn, I've been doing it 11 years. That means nothing. I learn things every single day. You know, I talk to quite a lot of people, especially now, and I learn things all the time.
I think it's important that people should remember that there are going to be those who've done it for a long time, and then there's going to be those that are just starting out. And I think those that are just starting out need to know that everybody else who are, you know, further on in their journey doing it are there to help rather than not criticise as such. I think constructive criticism is good, because I would expect somebody to say, oh, look, Stace, something you've just posted, I don't think it was correct, or that it's better this way. I'd welcome that kind of thing, because I'd want to know, you know, if I was making a mistake. But I think if it was handled like that, then it would be much better for newer breeders.
Make people feel bad for asking a question. Like, you know, with the likes of, you know, pet shops and things like that, which are notoriously known for giving out false information, because at the end of the day, they're a business. They're there to make money at the end. Like, you know, they've got things to pay for. They're not going to 100% be all about animal care. As bad as it sounds, obviously not all shops are like that. There are some absolutely amazing ones out there, but the majority that your casual keeper go to tend to be, unfortunately, those ones that do care solely about their profit, and that's all they have in their eyes, not, you know, profit and well-being. So if a lot more people didn't be so belittling, like, you know, about new keepers not knowing exactly what to do, not knowing exactly the best light, exactly the best, you know, all this, that and the other, I think we would have a lot more people in the community, a lot less drama for sure. I think we'd have a lot more of a positive environment for reptile keeping as a whole.
If I see things, I think they might have sort of got that a bit wrong, then I'll message them privately. You know, I won't put it public for everyone to read. I'll respectfully message them privately, and, you know, I'm going to be nice about it. That's just me.
I see that a lot, actually, because there's been a few times I've messaged people to say, are you okay? You know, like after they've been called out publicly.
Yeah, it's not nice to see. I mean, it's happened to me before, I'm sure, but it's not nice.
Message people and said, look, are you okay? I don't think it has been handled the best way, kind of thing.
No.
And don't worry, I just wouldn't do it publicly. If I saw someone doing it incorrectly, I would just private message them and say, look, I saw your post and I think it's better this way, or, you know. There's a question. How do we stop the spread of loose substrate to unknowing owners? I doubt you ever will, is the answer to that. Because loose substrate isn't bad. It's just that there's precautions that you can take so that it works better. because I know a lot of places sell loose substrate immediately to owners, and I don't think that will ever change because
No.
it's a pet shop kind of thing that does that. But usually, providing that your husbandry is correct, there won't be an issue unless the animal is unwell or unless the husbandry isn't right. I do still recommend that it's for over 6-month-old reptiles. That's just my personal opinion. It's just one of them things you'll never stop shops from selling loose substrate with vivarium setups if it's with regards to quarantine. I do believe that pet shops should provide a quarantine period, as in they should advise the customer a quarantine period, regardless of whether that reptile's going home into a vivarium that no other reptiles are in. It's still a good idea to have a quarantine period on kitchen rolls so that you can monitor what the reptile's doing with regards to pooping and eating and that kind of thing. Just all things that you can miss when you've got loose substrate in. And the other thing with that is that you're able to monitor the health, not just whether it's pooping and stuff. You can see whether it's lethargic and that kind of thing, which could cause it to have an impaction if it was on loose substrate. So there's all manner of things really, but I would suggest a quarantine period first and then loose afterwards. But unfortunately, the answer to that question in short is you're never going to stop reptile shops or pet shops that sell reptiles as well from selling loose substrate.
You shouldn't stop them from selling it. You should, educate them instead on it. There is always going to be a right and wrong way to use something. If it's used incorrectly, it's going to cause an issue.
Yeah.
All it takes is a bit of educating someone, and it could prevent a whole load of problems.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they will take the time to listen.
No.
I mean, they just want to make money, don't they?
It's sad that
most of them, not all of them, but the ones that I've known of anyway. But yeah, it's never going to stop. I mean, as you said, the shops are always going to sell it unless people sort of know about it beforehand. It's to stop them buying it. It's probably not going to happen, unfortunately.
It's true. Whichever way you look at it, unless you're a designated reptile shop, the likelihood is that you won't get that sort of information. And like you've just said, Chloe, they're not usually open to any sort of suggestions to advise otherwise.
Yeah.
I find they're very much like, I'm the one with the reptile shop,
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask you actually is, I was just wondering what aspects of genetics that you find interesting, because I know you've got your visuals, you've got your recessives, that kind of thing. Are you interested in the more in-depth side, say if someone was to chat about it with you and stuff? Does it sort of prick your ears kind of thing when people are chatting genetics and stuff? Is it something that you like to learn about?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I could talk about it all day really. I mean, the sort of breeder people that I talk to, we will sort of talk about stuff. And yeah, I mean, I was just saying to someone the other day, I mean, I don't know if this is part of that question at all, but I was saying to someone the other day, like how sort of important it is to sort of have known hets and stuff, because obviously if you've got, like, for example, I've got a white and yellow Mac radar, and she's paired to a bandit male, and he's het for Bell and Eclipse. And just pairing them together, obviously you're getting a combo of everything that they are. And it's so important, you really see like the true meaning of knowing, what they are, the variety that is produced.
On the back of that question, with regards to it's so important to know what hets you've got and stuff, I think it's probably happened to us all at least once, but have you had any surprises with your pairings, from things that was labelled one thing and it's turned out that actually they're carrying another recessive?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that people would be lying if they said that they didn't over, the whole time that they've been doing it. It definitely happens. I mean, you think, all the geckos that we sort of bring in to start a collection. I mean, these geckos could have been outcrossed 5 times before it gets to you. It could have had 10 different owners, like, the lion could have had 10 different owners. And I mean, somewhere, I mean, I think it's really hard unless you test breed. I think it's really hard to be 100% on anything. I mean, that's just me personally, because I mean, you think, you know, we have to start a collection somewhere, and you know, obviously we're bringing stuff in, and I mean, it definitely happens. And yeah, I mean, I've definitely had it a couple of times. Thankfully for me, it was stuff that didn't bother me. You know, I've never had sort of mixed albinos or anything like that. I think it's realistic to say, well, yeah, that happens. I mean, it's not always anyone's fault. You know, we get a gecko in, and as I said, you know, it could have been outcrossed 5 different times from 5 different owners. You know, you just don't know. And that's the thing, like, we may not know. And I mean, for me, especially this season, I've done a lot of test breeding, even just to sort of prove out some of my blizzards for snow, because I find it impossible to tell if my blizzards are snow or not. And like, especially obviously it's easier for males, and I keep some females back, and just I do as much as I can, just to sort of be sure of what everything is. But I'm sure it's happened to geckos that I've released as well, you know. It's not always our fault. It depends where they've been. And I think it's almost impossible to test everything for every single recessive, every single gene. Like, I think realistically it's hard to do that. I mean, for people that have the space to do it, 100%. I mean, I dedicated a lot of space this year just to do a lot of that. And I mean, it will never be 100%, because one morph that I don't have is rainwater. So that's something that my geckos won't be tested for. I've never worked with rainwater, but I think it's just realistic to realise that it does happen, and we don't always know about it, and it's not always our fault.
Definitely. I do think Max Snow is one of the tricky ones, and white and yellow is another one, especially if you're using it with Max Snow. It can become a little bit tricky for those who don't have the eye for it, you know, that have not worked with it, I guess, for a long time. But also, when you've got your own line of stuff that you're working on, you'll know yourself, you'll start to know what to expect in some ways from the hatchlings. So you'll look at it and you'll know straight away what it is, whereas a few seasons before you might have looked at it and thought, is it such, or is it, you know, one or the other? But you get to know your own lines, don't you? So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've had a couple of surprises myself, and you're right, unless you're willing to hold back pretty much everything and test breed absolutely everything, then there might be stragglers when it comes to recessive genes.
Yeah.
Unless you've got the capabilities, you know, with regards to facilities, it would take a hell of a lot of time to, you know, weed out the recessives, I guess.
Yeah, especially if you're testing females. I mean, you know, it can take years, obviously. And I mean, some people, you know, they're dedicated to doing that because they want clean lines. You know, that's completely fair enough. They've got the space, 100%. But yeah, and obviously not everyone can do that. And yeah.
I think the test breeding thing was cool. I didn't realise, like, people did that on such a level. Do you do like a full season with your test breeders?
Yeah, so depending what I want to test, it will be, I mean, it's usually sort of a few a year. And then, I mean, it's, as I said, it's a lot easier for males because you compare them with a few different females. But yeah, I mean, it depends what you're trying to get out, really. I mean, one thing that I do is if I have things that are post hets that I know about, I try and test them out as best I can. And as I said, with the snow as well in my blizzards, and for super snow in blizzards as well. Because with their eyes, you don't know what they are. It's so hard because they have sort of the eye pigment, and they can have like solid eyes and it can mean nothing, and it's really confusing. So that's like the main thing for me, is testing the blizzards. But yeah, I mean, as I said, a few a year because I can't put them with everything. So I try to dedicate some space to it as best I can. Yeah,
that's cool. I find that's quite interesting. I think I like that.
Yeah, I try my best.
You're like, I will go above and beyond for these animals.
Yeah,
tears into it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if there is something that's been missed, like it could be work out something really, really cool. So yeah,
definitely, especially if you're getting stuff from other people, you can't. It's not a case of saying this person's lying. It's just a case of you want to 100% check that it's there, which as a non-Leo person, I'd assume is very smart to do, because you could potentially waste a lot of time, or thinking something is and worrying, going, why isn't this coming out of this when it should be, and all this, that, and the other. I think that's really cool. I did not know that was a big thing in Leos. I probably should make sense, but
I mean, I don't know if many people do it, if I'm honest.
I think more people should.
I'm not really sure.
Good.
I mean, it's just something that I personally only started sort of concentrating on the last couple of years or so, but just something that I wanted to do. Yeah.
Just shows how important what you're working on is to you, and how much you're doing this for yourself and not for other people and not for profit and things like that. Like that, to me, just completely, like, obviously I knew in the first place that you weren't, one of those money hungry people, but that just the way you've spoken today really shows that it's full passion for these animals the whole way, no matter what. So that is very nice, very refreshing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I love the animals, and I'll just, at the end of the day, I'm not doing it for anyone else. So I mean, even these, the wobbly white and yellows, I mean, if I get some that are the desired look that I went for, then it will be a pet, but I'll still keep it. If it achieved anything that I was trying to get, just a little achievement for myself, and I'll keep it as a pet. It's just for my own enjoyment, but that's just me.
I really need a Leo. The more Leo people I talk to, the more I need a Leo.
They are great.
I used to have one, and I also had Luna for a while, but like I need my own permanent resident Leo. Or 10, because by seeing all of your lots morphs, I need about 10, maybe.
One of each colour.
Yeah, I literally
can't decide.
Don't even tempt me. Like, I'll do it. I will do it.
Well, that's the end of our questions. Thank you very much for joining us, because it's been really, really informative, especially from a breeder perspective. It's always nice to have different opinions of things and seeing how people feel about their projects and how they feel about breeding as a whole. So it's been quite refreshing, as Harley said.
It's interesting for me to hear different opinions, different views on the reptile hobby from a different keeper's perspective. So obviously you, Chloe, obviously mainly keep Leos. Obviously I don't. We come from two sort of quite different, obviously me with the arboreals, you with not, so it's nice to see that even if you're not keeping the same thing as me, we can share the same sort of views and things like that. So it's very, I find it very interesting and very fascinating to listen to other people. So that was an amazing podcast all about Leos. Chloe spoke about some amazing things there. I found it very interesting. I'm hoping you guys found it interesting too. We are really, really thankful that Chloe decided to join us. So thank you for coming on and speaking.
Thank you very much for having me.
Been a joy. Thank you everyone for listening. We hope you have a good rest of your day or evening, depending on when you listen to this. We shall see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.